He's the Empire's most feared general, ruthless, untouchable, and yet, the moment he looks at me, my world flips. The man I've loved since childhood, married to me, the Emperor's youngest son. I thought this would be my dream, but it turned into a nightmare I couldn't escape. The palace smelled like cold stone and quiet cruelty. I had grown used to it. Servants lowered their heads when I walked past, but their eyes followed me, sharp, mocking. I knew what they whispered when my back turned. Useless prince. Motherless Omega. The Emperor's mistake. I tightened my fingers around the sleeve of my robe and kept walking. Fighting back only made things worse. I had learned that long ago. My name is Edward, the Emperor's youngest son. But no one calls me that. Most people prefer the Beta Prince. Which is convenient. Because a recessive Omega like me doesn't smell like anything. No sweet scent. No heat cycles. Nothing that reveals the truth. Just emptiness. And in the Imperial Palace, emptiness is the safest thing to be. I pushed open the door to the quiet courtyard behind my residence. Snow covered the stones, untouched and pure. For a moment I simply stood there, breathing the cold air. Peace. The only place where the palace noise couldn't reach me. Then hurried footsteps broke the silence. Your Highness. I turned. My servant boy, Lin, ran toward me panting. His face was pale. What happened? I asked softly. Lin bowed quickly. The Emperor has summoned you to the main hall. My stomach tightened. That was never good news. The Imperial Hall was enormous. Golden pillars stretched toward the ceiling like silent guards. Ministers stood in rows on either side. And at the very end sat my father, Emperor Liangjun, a man who loved nothing except power. His eyes landed on me like a blade. So you came, he said lazily. I knelt. This son greets Father Emperor. The ministers watched me with faint curiosity. Some with pity. Most with indifference. I lowered my gaze. Then the Emperor smiled. It was the kind of smile that always meant someone was about to suffer. Edward, he said slowly, you should be grateful today. My chest tightened. Grateful? For what, Father Emperor? His voice echoed through the hall. For your marriage. The word struck me like thunder. Marriage. My heart skipped. I forced myself to remain still, but my mind was already racing. Marriage. For a prince like me, marriage meant being sent away. A political pawn. A sacrifice. But still, a tiny, foolish hope stirred inside me. May I ask, who this son is to marry? The Emperor leaned back on his throne. His smile widened. General Ethan. The hall erupted in murmurs. Even I froze. General Ethan. The Empire's most feared war hero. A ruthless alpha who had crushed rebellions and conquered enemy territories before the age of 25. Soldiers worshipped him. The people loved him. Which meant, my father hated him. And there were rumors. Terrifying rumors. They said General Ethan despised male Omegas the most. My fingers curled slightly. The Emperor watched my reaction with satisfaction. General Ethan returned victorious today, he continued. As a reward for his service, I have decided to grant him my youngest son as a spouse. His gaze sharpened. Surely you understand what an honor this is. Honor. Right. A disposable prince given to a dangerous alpha. Everyone in the hall understood the real meaning. Bait. If Ethan killed me, my father would finally have an excuse to execute the beloved general. I lowered my head. This son obeys Father Emperor's will. Inside my chest, my heart pounded wildly. Because beneath the fear, another feeling quietly bloomed. Hope. I remembered a boy. Snow falling in a quiet courtyard. I was 7. Hungry. Cold. Crying because the kitchen servants refused to give me food. Then someone appeared. A boy slightly older than me. Tall. Fierce eyes. Why are you crying? I wiped my face. I'm not crying. He snorted. You're terrible at lying. Then he shoved a warm steamed bun into my hands. Eat. I stared at him. Aren't you afraid I'll get you in trouble? The boy shrugged. I don't care. His eyes softened slightly. Don't cry anymore, Eddie. Eddie. That was the name I gave him. And he told me his name too. Ethan. The memory faded as palace servants dressed me in ceremonial wedding robes. Red silk. Gold embroidery. Heavy and suffocating. Lin looked worried as he adjusted the collar. Your Highness, are you afraid? I hesitated. Yes. Then I whispered the rest. But I'm also happy. Lin blinked. Happy? I smiled faintly. Because the general might be someone I once knew. Even saying it felt foolish. After all, Ethan probably didn't remember a weak little boy he once fed. The wedding ceremony passed like a dream. I barely remembered bowing. Barely remembered the vows. barely remembered being escorted to the general's residence outside the palace. Night had already fallen when I entered my new home. The servants bowed politely, but their expressions were cold. I quickly understood why. The general was not here. He is busy with military affairs, the head servant said stiffly. The general will visit when he has time. Days passed, then weeks. But General Ethan never came. The servants' respect faded quickly. Some ignored my orders. Others laughed behind my back. Once, I heard them whisper outside my door. Did you hear? The general hates male Omegas. No wonder he refuses to see his spouse. What a pitiful prince. I curled my fingers tightly in the blankets. Their words cut deeper than knives. But I said nothing, because fighting would only make things worse. One cold night, I walked alone through the empty courtyard of the general's residence. Snow drifted quietly from the sky. My breath formed white clouds. I whispered into the darkness. Ethan. Of course he couldn't hear me. He probably didn't even remember me. Just as I turned to leave, a deep voice suddenly spoke behind me. So you're the Emperor's Omega. My body froze. Slowly, I turned around. A tall man stood at the courtyard gate. Black armor, broad shoulders, sharp eyes that looked like they could cut through steel. General Ethan. My heart began to pound uncontrollably. He stepped closer, each step heavy against the stone. His gaze swept over me coldly. Then he laughed quietly. Tell me something. His voice was low and dangerous. Did the Emperor send you here to spy on me? He stopped right in front of me. His shadow swallowed mine. Or to die. My throat tightened. But somehow I forced the words out. General. I looked up at him. Do you remember a boy named Eddie? For a moment. Just a moment. Something flickered in Ethan's eyes. But then it vanished. His expression turned colder. I don't know any servant brat named Eddie. The words felt like a knife in my chest. And the snow kept falling around us. The first time my husband truly looked at me, it felt like standing in front of a drawn blade. General Ethan's shadow covered me completely. Snow fell between us, silent and cold, yet the air felt strangely heavy. Did the Emperor send you here to spy on me, or to die? His voice carried the same calm cruelty soldiers used before killing someone. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to answer. General, do you remember a boy named Eddie? For a moment, just a moment, his eyes flickered. My heart leaped, but the warmth vanished before I could breathe. I don't know any servant brat named Eddie. The words landed hard. I lowered my gaze quickly before he could see the sting in my eyes. Of course he didn't remember. Why would a powerful general remember a hungry little boy from the palace courtyard? Ethan stepped closer, studying me like a suspicious stranger. So, he said lazily, the Emperor sent me a quiet one. I kept my head lowered. This one has no intention of spying on the general. He snorted. That's what spies usually say. His boots stopped right in front of mine. I could feel the heat of his body through the winter air, strong, overwhelming, unmistakably alpha. Even without a scent, my body recognized it instinctively. My pulse quickened. He noticed. His eyes narrowed slightly. Are you afraid of me? Yes. The answer slipped out before I could stop it. Silence hung between us. Then Ethan suddenly laughed. Not kindly. More like a wolf amused by a trembling rabbit. Good, he said. You should be. He turned away without another word and walked toward the residence. I stood there alone in the snow long after he disappeared. My chest hurt. Not because he frightened me, but because he truly didn't remember. The next morning, the household changed. Word spread quickly. The general had returned. Servants rushed through the corridors with nervous energy. Guards stood straighter. Even the head steward looked tense. Everyone feared Ethan. Except me. Because beneath the cold warrior, I still remembered a boy who shared his food with a starving child. Even if he had forgotten. I was walking through the main hall when raised voices suddenly echoed ahead. Your Highness. The head steward hurried toward me. The general requests your presence. Requests. But his expression made it clear. This was not a request. The training grounds behind the residence were massive. Soldiers filled the field, sparring and shouting. Steel clashed against steel in sharp bursts. And in the center stood Ethan. Black training robes clung to his tall frame. Sweat darkened his collar slightly, and a sword rested loosely in his hand. He looked terrifying, powerful, alive. The moment he noticed me, the entire training ground fell quiet. All eyes turned toward the Emperor's unwanted prince. Ethan tilted his head slightly. Come here. My steps felt strangely heavy as I approached him. The soldiers whispered among themselves. That's the Omega Prince? He looks weak. No wonder the general ignores him. I stopped a few steps away and bowed politely. You called for me, General? Ethan's eyes swept over me slowly. Then he smiled. It was not a gentle smile. It was the smile of someone planning trouble. You're my spouse, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. The soldiers leaned closer. Yet you hide in your courtyard all day like a frightened rabbit. My fingers tightened slightly. I did not wish to disturb the general's duties. He laughed. You're already disturbing them by existing. The soldiers chuckled nervously. My cheeks warmed, but I remained silent. Ethan suddenly tossed the sword in his hand toward me. I barely caught it. The weapon felt heavy and unfamiliar. Show me something. I blinked. General? Fight. My stomach dropped. I don't know how. His expression sharpened. You're a prince of this empire. Don't tell me you were raised completely useless. The soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew the truth. After my mother died, no one bothered teaching me anything. Ethan clearly realized that too. But instead of stopping, his smile only deepened. Fine. He drew another sword from a nearby rack. Then he stepped closer. So let's see exactly how useless the Emperor's son really is. My hands trembled slightly as I held the weapon. Ethan moved first. Fast. The sound of steel slashing through the air made me flinch. Clang. My sword barely blocked the strike. The impact shot pain through my arms. The soldiers gasped. Ethan attacked again. And again. Each strike faster than the last. I stumbled backward across the dirt, barely managing to lift the sword in defense. My heart pounded wildly. He wasn't trying to kill me, but he wasn't holding back either. Clang! The final blow knocked the sword completely out of my hands. It flew across the ground. I lost my balance and fell hard into the dirt. Silence spread across the training yard. Ethan looked down at me from above. Cold. Judging. Pathetic. The word struck deeper than the fall. My chest tightened painfully, but I forced myself to stay calm. This humiliation, it wasn't really meant for me. It was meant for the Emperor. Ethan crouched suddenly, grabbing my chin roughly. Listen carefully, Your Highness. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. I know exactly why your father sent you here. His thumb pressed slightly harder against my jaw. He hopes I'll kill you. My breath caught. Ethan's eyes darkened. But I won't give him that satisfaction. He released me abruptly and stood. Instead, he spoke loudly enough for every soldier to hear. From today onward, the prince will attend training every morning. The soldiers looked stunned. Ethan continued calmly. If he's going to live under my roof, he'll at least learn not to collapse like a dying bird. Laughter rippled across the field. My face burned. But strangely, I didn't feel angry, because in his cruel way, Ethan had just done something unexpected. He had given me a place beside him, even if it was only to mock me. That night I lay awake in my room. My arms still ached from holding the sword, but my mind kept replaying the moment when Ethan grabbed my chin. The closeness, the warmth of his breath, the faint, dangerous pressure of his alpha presence. My heart beat faster just remembering it. I buried my face into the pillow. Ethan, even if he hated me now, even if he had forgotten Eddie, I still felt strangely safe here. Safer than I had ever felt in the palace. Outside my window, footsteps passed quietly in the corridor. If I had looked out, I would have seen something surprising. General Ethan standing in the shadows, watching my door, his expression unreadable. And in his hand, a small steamed bun from the kitchen. Morning training became my punishment. And strangely, my only moment of peace. Every dawn, the soldiers gathered on the training grounds while frost still clung to the grass. Steel rang through the cold air as swords clashed. And every morning, General Ethan humiliated me. Too slow. Clang. Your grip is weak. Clang. You fight like someone trying to swat flies. The soldiers laughed. My arms trembled as I tried to hold the sword properly. Blisters covered my palms now, raw and burning. Still, I kept trying. Because when Ethan looked at me during training, he was looking at me, not through me like everyone else in the palace. And that small difference felt precious, even if it came with cruelty. Again, Ethan circled me slowly, sword resting lazily on his shoulder. Sweat rolled down my neck despite the cold air. My body felt heavy today. Strange. Warm. Unstable. I tightened my grip on the sword. Yes, General. We clashed again. Clang. The impact sent pain through my arms. But something else distracted me. A faint heat spreading under my skin. Unfamiliar. Uncomfortable. Ethan struck again. Clang. I staggered back. The world tilted slightly. Focus, he snapped. I'm trying. But my voice came out softer than expected. The soldiers whispered nearby. He looks pale. Did the general push him too hard? Ethan stepped closer, studying my face carefully. His brows tightened slightly. What's wrong with you today? I'm fine. Another lie. Because the warmth inside my body was growing stronger. My heart raced strangely fast. My breathing turned uneven. Ethan suddenly attacked again. Clang! The sword flew out of my hands. I stumbled backward and collapsed to my knees. The training ground went silent. My body trembled uncontrollably. The heat burning inside me felt almost unbearable now. Ethan walked toward me slowly. Suspicion darkened his gaze. Get up. I tried. My legs refused. A soft, humiliating sound escaped my throat. The soldiers exchanged confused glances. What's happening to the prince? Ethan crouched suddenly and grabbed my wrist. The moment his fingers touched my skin, his entire body froze. His grip tightened. What? His voice dropped dangerously low. I didn't understand. But then something happened. A faint scent slipped into the air. Soft. Sweet. Like blooming flowers after rain. The soldiers blinked. Did someone bring perfume? No. Ethan's eyes snapped toward me. Pure shock filled them. Omega. The word echoed through the silent training ground. My heart stopped. Omega? That was impossible. I was a recessive Omega. I never had a scent. Never had heat. Never. A wave of burning heat suddenly crashed through my body. My vision blurred. My hands clutched the dirt desperately. General. The scent grew stronger. Sweet. Helpless. Irresistible. The soldiers' expressions changed immediately. Several alphas stiffened. Ethan reacted instantly. Everyone leave. His voice exploded like thunder. Now. The soldiers scattered without hesitation. Within seconds, the training field was empty. Only Ethan and I remained. My body trembled violently. Something inside me felt like it was tearing open. Why is this happening? I whispered weakly. Ethan stared down at me with a complicated expression. Shock. Confusion. And something darker. You didn't know. It wasn't a question. My breathing became uneven. I'm not an Omega. The word sounded pathetic even to me. Ethan suddenly pulled me into his arms. The movement shocked me. His body felt scorching hot. Solid. Overwhelming. Your scent says otherwise. His voice was rough now. Dangerously rough. My head rested against his chest. The heat inside me intensified. My fingers clutched his robe without thinking. Please. I didn't even know what I was asking for. Relief. Comfort. Anything. Ethan went completely still. His arms tightened around me slightly. Then he muttered something under his breath. Damn it. His alpha scent suddenly flooded the air. Dark. Powerful. Wild. My body reacted instantly. A soft gasp escaped my lips. Ethan froze again. Realization flashed across his face. You're responding. His voice dropped to a whisper. My cheeks burned. I can't control it. The heat made my thoughts foggy. My fingers unconsciously clutched his chest tighter. Ethan's jaw clenched. His breathing grew heavier. The air between us thickened with tension. Finally, he lifted me suddenly into his arms. The movement made my head spin. Where? Your room. His voice sounded strained now. Each step he took felt fast and deliberate, as if he was trying to escape something, or restrain something. When we reached my chamber, Ethan kicked the door shut behind us. The room fell into quiet darkness. He placed me carefully on the bed. But the moment he tried to step away, my hand grabbed his sleeve. Don't. The words slipped out helplessly. Ethan looked down at me. My scent wrapped around him like a trap. Sweet. Inviting. My body burned under the blankets. The heat inside me begged for relief. Ethan's eyes darkened dangerously. You don't understand what you're asking. I shook my head weakly. I just feel strange. My voice trembled. His gaze lingered on my flushed face. Then slowly, he pulled his sleeve from my grasp. You're entering heat. The words sounded almost reluctant. Real Omegas go through this. My mind felt foggy. But I'm not. Ethan exhaled slowly. You were. Silence filled the room. Then he spoke again, quieter. Something triggered it. His eyes studied me carefully, then suddenly hardened. Stay here. He turned and walked toward the door. Panic surged through me instantly. Where are you going? Ethan paused. Without looking back, he answered coldly. If I stay, things will become dangerous. Then he left. The door closed behind him. I curled weakly under the blankets. My body burned. My thoughts blurred. Tears slipped quietly down my face. Ethan. Outside the room. The general leaned heavily against the corridor wall. His breathing was rough. His hands clenched tightly, because the sweet scent drifting through the door was driving his alpha instincts wild. And deep inside his memory, A forgotten voice whispered softly. Don't cry anymore, Eddie. Ethan frowned. Why did that name suddenly feel so familiar? The heat burned through me like fire. Every breath felt too warm. The blankets tangled around my legs, trapping the unbearable warmth beneath them. I curled against the pillows, trembling. Something inside my body kept whispering the same desperate thought. Find him. My fingers clutched the sheets tightly. No. I forced the word out weakly. I didn't understand what was happening to me, but I knew one thing clearly. If Ethan came back, I might lose the little control I had left. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange inside the fog filling my mind. My skin burned. My heartbeat refused to slow. And worst of all, the loneliness hurt. I buried my face in the pillow. Ethan. Outside my chamber, the general stood in the courtyard under the pale moonlight. Cold wind cut across the stone tiles. But Ethan barely felt it, because the sweet scent drifting from the room behind him was far more dangerous. His jaw tightened. Damn it. He had faced enemy armies without hesitation. Yet right now, one fragile Omega was defeating his self-control. His mind replayed the moment from earlier. The scent, the trembling body in his arms, the helpless voice whispering his name. Something about it stirred an uncomfortable feeling deep in his chest. Familiar. Too familiar. He clenched his fists. Why does it feel like I've seen him like this before? Then a memory flickered. Snow falling in a quiet courtyard. A small boy wiping tears from his cheeks. Don't cry anymore, Eddie. Ethan frowned. Eddie. The servant child who used to follow him around years ago. The boy who smiled whenever Ethan brought him food. The only person Ethan had ever truly liked. But that boy had disappeared long ago. No name. No background. Just gone. And now the Emperor's son. Smelled exactly the same. Ethan's eyes darkened slightly. Impossible. Still, his feet were already moving. I heard the door open. Soft. Careful. My blurry vision shifted toward the sound. Ethan stood at the doorway. His tall figure filled the entrance, shadows stretching across the floor. Relief rushed through my chest so suddenly it almost hurt. You came back. My voice sounded weak. Ethan didn't answer immediately. His gaze locked onto me. I was still curled helplessly on the bed, hair damp with sweat, robe slightly loose from tossing restlessly. The sweet scent filling the room grew stronger. His jaw tightened again. You should have locked the door. I blinked slowly. Why? His eyes darkened. Because not every alpha has my patience. The warning in his voice sent a small shiver through me. He stepped closer. Each step slow. Careful. As if approaching something fragile. Or dangerous. Does it hurt? He asked quietly. I nodded. Yes. The word slipped out before pride could stop it. My body shifted restlessly against the blankets. I feel strange. Ethan watched me carefully. His expression was no longer mocking. Just thoughtful. Then he sat beside the bed. The mattress dipped under his weight. The moment he got closer, my body reacted instinctively. The burning heat eased slightly. My breathing softened. Ethan noticed immediately. So it's true. I looked at him through the haze clouding my mind. What is? You calm down when I'm near. His voice sounded strangely low. I didn't understand why, but my fingers slowly reached toward him without thinking. Before I could stop myself, I grabbed his sleeve. Stay. The words slipped out softly. Ethan froze. My touch was weak. Barely there. But the warmth of his presence soothed the chaos inside my body. I won't do anything, I whispered. Just stay. For a moment, Ethan didn't move. Then he sighed quietly. You're really troublesome. But he didn't pull away. Instead, he shifted slightly closer. My body relaxed immediately. Relief spread through my chest like warm sunlight. I leaned against his arm without realizing it. Ethan went completely still. His scent thickened in the air. Dark. Protective. Dangerous. But instead of frightening me, it felt safe. Familiar. Comforting. My eyes grew heavy. The heat slowly dulled to a manageable warmth. Thank you. My voice was barely audible now. Ethan glanced down at me. You're thanking the wrong person. I shook my head slightly. You were always kind to me. He frowned. What? I smiled faintly, half asleep. You used to bring me food when I was hungry. Ethan's entire body stiffened. What did you say? My mind drifted deeper into the fog of exhaustion. But the memories felt warm. Comforting. You said not to cry anymore. My fingers tightened slightly on his sleeve. Ethan. Silence fell over the room. Heavy. Unbelievable. Ethan slowly leaned closer. His sharp eyes studied my face carefully. Say that name again. I murmured softly against his shoulder. My name? No. His voice turned rough. That name you just used. My lips moved slowly. Ethan. His breath caught. Then he whispered the question that had haunted him for years. Who are you? My answer came without hesitation, because it had always been the truth. I'm Eddie. The room fell completely silent. Ethan stared at me as if the world had just shattered. Eddie. The boy he had spent years searching for. The boy he thought had disappeared forever. The boy who had stood in front of bullies and shouted at them when they mocked him for being motherless. The boy who smiled at him like he was the most important person in the world. That boy was the Emperor's forgotten prince. And Ethan had spent the last month humiliating him. Something twisted painfully in his chest. Edward. The name left his lips slowly, as if he had only just discovered it. My eyes were already closed. Exhaustion pulled me into sleep. But before consciousness faded completely, I felt something unexpected. Ethan's hand gently brushing my hair. His voice, softer than I had ever heard it. I finally found you. And outside the window, the night wind carried a faint scent of approaching storm. Because when Ethan realized what the Emperor had done to Eddie, the Empire itself would tremble. When I woke up, the world smelled different. Warmer. Heavier. Safer. For a moment I didn't move. My cheek rested against something firm, warm beneath my skin. A slow, steady heartbeat echoed against my ear. Not mine. My eyes slowly opened. General Ethan sat beside the bed, leaning against the headboard. One arm rested loosely around my shoulders as if he had forgotten to remove it. And I was curled against him like it was the most natural thing in the world. The memory of last night rushed back all at once. The heat. The scent. The things I had said. My body stiffened instantly. Ethan noticed. Awake. His voice was rough, lower than usual. Embarrassment rushed to my face. I quickly tried to move away, but his arm tightened slightly around my waist. Don't. The command wasn't loud, but it was impossible to ignore. I froze. General. He let out a quiet breath. Stop calling me that. I blinked, confused. Then, what should I call you? His gaze lowered to me. For the first time since our marriage, the cold hostility in his eyes was gone. Something warmer replaced it. Something intense. Ethan. My heart skipped. That name had lived in my chest for years. Yet hearing him say it like this felt strangely different. Ethan, I repeated softly. The sound of it seemed to satisfy something inside him. But the peace didn't last long, because the heat inside my body suddenly surged again. A soft gasp slipped past my lips. My fingers clenched the fabric of his robe. Ethan noticed immediately. Still burning? I nodded weakly. I thought it would stop. His jaw tightened. First heat doesn't end easily. The words sent a small wave of panic through me. What should I do? Ethan didn't answer right away. His eyes slowly moved over my flushed face. My trembling hands. The way my body leaned unconsciously closer to him for comfort. Then he spoke quietly. There are two ways. My breathing slowed slightly. What ways? His gaze darkened. One, you endure it. And the other? The silence stretched. I didn't understand why he hesitated. Until he finally answered. An alpha helps you through it. The meaning settled slowly into my foggy thoughts. My cheeks burned. Oh! The room fell quiet. Ethan looked away first. I can call a physician. They'll give you suppressants. But my body reacted the moment he tried to move. My fingers grabbed his sleeve instinctively. Wait. He stopped. I didn't know why I said it. Maybe it was the heat. Maybe it was the years of quiet feelings I had never dared to speak. Or maybe it was simply because this was the first time someone had looked at me with real concern. Do you hate me? The question came out small. Ethan's head turned sharply. What? Everyone says you hate male Omegas. My voice trembled slightly. I thought maybe that's why you ignored me. Silence settled between us. Then Ethan suddenly laughed. Not mockingly. More like someone realizing something ridiculous. I don't hate male Omegas. I blinked. But the rumors. I spread those. My eyes widened. Why? Ethan's gaze returned to me slowly. His expression softened in a way I had never seen before. Because I already liked someone. My heart skipped again. And I didn't want anyone else near me. I stared at him. Someone. Ethan leaned slightly closer. Yes. His voice dropped lower. Someone named Eddie. My breath caught. The room suddenly felt very quiet. Ethan lifted a hand and brushed a damp strand of hair away from my face. The touch was gentle. Almost careful. I spent years looking for him. His thumb lingered against my cheek. And when I finally found him, his expression darkened slightly. I had already treated him terribly. My chest tightened. Ethan. But he shook his head. I humiliated you. Ignored you. Let the servants disrespect you. His jaw clenched. All because I thought you were the Emperor's pawn. I slowly shook my head. You didn't know. That's not an excuse. His hand slid down, gently holding my wrist. But I will make it right. The way he said it made my heart race. The heat inside my body flared again. A weak sound escaped my throat. Ethan noticed immediately. His eyes darkened. Edward. The way he said my name sent a strange shiver through me. My fingers slowly tightened around his robe. I feel strange again. The scent in the room thickened. Sweet. Helpless. Inviting. Ethan inhaled slowly. His control was clearly slipping now. Eddie. The nickname left his lips unconsciously. My heart melted. I looked up at him through half-lidded eyes. Yes? Something inside him snapped. In the next moment, Ethan's hand cupped my face firmly. Then he kissed me. The kiss wasn't rough, but it carried years of restrained longing. Warm. Deep. Possessive. My mind went blank. My fingers clutched his shoulders instinctively. The heat inside me responded immediately, surging wildly through my body. Ethan pulled back slightly, breathing uneven. Last chance. His voice sounded strained now. If we continue, I won't stop. My heart pounded violently. But the answer came easily. I shook my head. I don't want you to stop. The words seemed to break the last thread of his restraint. Ethan pulled me into his arms again. This time the embrace felt different. No hesitation. No distance. Just warmth. His forehead rested briefly against mine. I'll be gentle. But the way his hands tightened around me promised something far deeper than gentleness. Outside, the wind howled softly against the windows. Inside the room, the candles flickered as shadows danced along the walls. The night stretched long, and somewhere between soft whispers, heated breaths, and trembling closeness, my body finally changed. The dormant Omega within me awakened completely under Ethan's touch. By the time the moon faded from the sky, exhaustion wrapped around us both. Ethan lay beside me, one arm still protectively around my waist. His hand rested lightly over my stomach. His voice, when he spoke, was softer than I had ever heard. You're mine now, Eddie. But this time, the words didn't feel like a cage. They felt like home. And neither of us yet knew that this single night had already created a new life. I woke to the sound of steel. Not clashing. Drawing. My eyes opened slowly. Morning light filtered through the curtains, pale and soft. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. Ethan's arms still rested around my waist, warm and heavy. Then the noise came again. Footsteps outside the courtyard. Many of them. My body tensed. Ethan. He was already awake. I could feel it in the way his arm tightened protectively around me. His eyes opened slowly, calm and sharp like a predator that had never truly slept. I know. His voice was quiet. Dangerously quiet. The footsteps stopped outside our door. Then someone shouted. Imperial decree. General Ethan is to surrender immediately. My chest tightened. Imperial soldiers. Ethan exhaled slowly. So he couldn't wait. I grabbed his sleeve. What's happening? He looked down at me. Something dark moved behind his eyes. Your father finally made his move. My fingers trembled. Because of me? No. His voice turned cold. Because he's afraid. Ethan sat up and reached for his sword resting beside the bed. The steel reflected the morning light. You think he'll kill you? I asked quietly. Ethan glanced at me. Then he smiled. A dangerous smile that made my heart race. He can try. The courtyard outside our residence was filled with soldiers. Imperial banners waved above their heads. At the front stood a royal officer holding a scroll. His voice rang loudly. General Ethan, you are accused of treason against the throne. Lay down your weapon and surrender. The soldiers tightened their formation. I stood behind Ethan, clutching my robe tightly. Fear crawled through my chest. But Ethan stepped forward calmly. The morning wind lifted his dark hair slightly. Treason, he repeated. His voice carried easily across the courtyard. That's interesting. The officer frowned. General Ethan, the Emperor has already issued the order. You, Ethan interrupted him. Tell me something. His eyes turned sharp. When did defending the Empire become treason? Murmurs spread through the soldiers. Everyone in the capital knew the truth. The people loved Ethan far more than the Emperor. The officer's expression hardened. You dare question His Majesty? Ethan's laugh was quiet. I question a coward hiding behind his throne. The courtyard fell silent. Then Ethan slowly raised his sword. The blade gleamed in the sunlight. Go back and tell the Emperor something for me. His voice dropped into a cold promise. I'm done being his weapon. The officer shouted instantly. Seize him. Soldiers rushed forward. Steel flashed everywhere. But Ethan moved faster. His sword cut through the air like lightning. Clang. One soldier's weapon flew from his hand. Clang. Another stumbled backward. The courtyard erupted into chaos. But even surrounded by dozens of soldiers, Ethan looked completely calm, like a storm walking through rain. I watched in stunned silence. Because this man, this terrifying warrior, was the same boy who once shared his food with me. The battle ended quickly. Too quickly. Within minutes the soldiers were either disarmed or kneeling. Ethan stood in the center of the courtyard. Untouched. Unchallenged. The officer's face had turned pale. You're rebelling. Ethan stepped closer slowly. No. His voice remained steady. I'm correcting a mistake. Then he spoke the words that changed everything. Prepare the army. The officer blinked. What? Ethan's gaze turned toward the distant palace rising above the capital. The empire deserves a better ruler. The capital erupted within days. Not with rebellion. With support. When Ethan marched toward the palace, thousands followed him. Soldiers. Citizens. Even nobles who had grown tired of the emperor's cruelty. I stood beside Ethan the entire time, still struggling to believe what was happening. Are you afraid? He asked quietly as we approached the palace gates. I looked at him. At the man who had turned the entire empire upside down for justice. And maybe, for me. I shook my head. No. Then I hesitated before adding softly. I trust you. His expression softened. Just slightly. The throne room felt smaller than I remembered. The emperor sat on his golden throne, pale with fury. You dare betray me, he shouted. Ethan walked forward calmly. I warned you once. The emperor's eyes shifted toward me. Then he laughed cruelly. You're doing this for him? His finger pointed directly at me. That useless Omega? Something dark flashed across Ethan's face. Before I realized what happened, his sword was already at the emperor's throat. The entire court froze. Careful, Ethan said softly. My patience today is very limited. The emperor's voice trembled now. You can't kill me. I'm the emperor. Ethan tilted his head slightly. Not anymore. The blade moved, and the empire gained a new ruler. Months later, the palace felt different. Warmer. Kinder. Ethan ruled firmly but fairly. The people called him the Iron Emperor. But when he looked at me, the iron always melted. I stood in the palace garden one quiet evening, watching the sunset. My hand rested lightly on my stomach. The physician's words still echoed in my mind. A child. Footsteps approached behind me. Then warm arms wrapped around my waist. Ethan's voice murmured near my ear. You're thinking too much again. I smiled softly. You're going to be a father. His arms tightened slightly. I already know. I blinked. You knew. Ethan chuckled quietly. My instincts noticed before the physician did. I turned slightly in his arms. Are you happy? He looked at me like the answer was obvious. Eddie. My nickname sounded gentle on his lips. You were the only thing I ever wanted. The fading sunlight painted the garden gold around us. And for the first time in my life, I finally believed it. The lonely prince. The ruthless general. The empire that once tried to destroy us. None of it mattered anymore. Because in the end, we had chosen each other. And this time, neither of us would ever let go.